Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Odin's movie vlog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'll be giving my review of the film Richard Jewell, but I will be doing so within the context of the controversy that surrounded this film ever since its release, which has really plagued it, I think, from being able to do nearly as well in the box office as I think it really should have done, because let me just start off by the bat, as if you couldn't tell from my Letterboxd review, I think this film is possibly one of the best films of the year. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5-star rating because the acting is superb. The direction by Clint Eastwood is some of the best direction that he's given in a very long time. And this is a story that is so well written, so well put together, and it covers a subject matter that I think is incredibly important as well. I am a person that had no real knowledge of who Richard Jewell was. I had no idea about his story. I had no idea about what happened to him. But to see all of these things come to light and to see it being portrayed in the way that it was, and the sympathy that you feel so much for this family, played incredibly by Paul Walter Hauser, who is just a powerhouse. At one point, they actually show you footage from the actual events of the 1996 Olympics. They show you one of the interviews of Richard Jewell, and it was so amazing to watch because I was watching the footage of the actual real-life Richard Jewell, and then you were cutting it back to who was watching the footage, because it was an interview that had been posted and had been recorded, to the actual actor playing Richard Jewell, and the similarities are just so incredible. So just the makeup team, everyone involved that were able to really make, and of course Paul Walter Hauser himself, making himself sound exactly like the character. He did a fantastic job with this, fit the role, and really just knocked it out of the park. And it's really sad that his role, and especially the role of Sam Rockwell, and more so than anyone else, Kathy frickin' Bates in this film, who plays his mother, is just dynamite. I'm so glad that at the very least the Oscars were able to recognize her, but man, oh man, this movie got completely shafted by the media, and it makes a lot of sense. They decided to focus on one specific element. For maybe those that don't know the controversy about this film, it has everything to do with how they covered Kathy Scruggs, who was the reporter for the Atlantic Journal-Constitution that broke the original story that basically threw Richard Jewell under the bus and essentially lied about his character. So basically it all came from the fact that the FBI, for those that maybe don't want to know anything about the story and go in blind, maybe you might want to stop watching now, but I'm assuming a lot of y'all have probably at least heard the story or had maybe even watched the film already at this point in time. But basically, the FBI leaked to Kathy Scruggs this information that they were investigating, that he was simply a person of interest, and this rag, this Atlantic Journal-Constitution, headlined by Kathy Scruggs, shows that they don't care what the truth is. They don't care about what the facts are. They decide instead to run with the story that eventually just drags Richard Jewell's name into the mud. It's a guy who basically for a few days was seen as a hero, which is exactly what he was. He was a guy that found a package that ended up being a pipe bomb, and because he found it and they were able to back up people enough, the damage was much more limited. Only a few people were able, only a few people actually lost their lives, while many more were damaged. So he essentially was a hero who essentially, saved the day for a lot of people. But they decide instead to go with the information from that was leaked by the FBI that he was just being investigated, and they decide to take that and say, oh, is he being investigated? Oh, what if it's him? What if it's him? And again, running article after article after article. So the reason why this movie is so important is because it is a commentary on the 24-hour news cycle that we currently live in, where they will take anything, whether it is true or not. They will take speculation, spin it as news, spin it as truth, and then if they're wrong, they won't retract. And if they do retract, if it's in a newspaper, they'll put it on page 50 or whatever, if for all the newspapers that even still exist anymore. And this, to me, I think kind of shows where a lot of this stuff began, where a lot of this, so-called fake news really began with this case of Richard Jewell, where a man who was completely innocent of any crime was dragged through the mud, mostly thanks to this woman, Kathy Scruggs. And therefore, the film focuses on that aspect and portrays Kathy Scruggs in, I think, a very truthful light, that she was essentially a scumbag who only wanted the attention, who only wanted the focus, who wanted to be seen as this great reporter, who wanted to be, name in the lights type of situation, and simply wanted to have a story to talk about, whether it was true or not. And the other reason why I think this film does a great job is because guess what? By the end of this movie, it shows that she uncovers the truth. she realizes that her initial reporting was wrong, and the actress on screen, played brilliantly by, what was it, Olivia Wilde, does a fantastic job too. Let me just double check that so I can, fact check. Yeah, Olivia Wilde. She also does a fantastic job showing that the emotion that she felt. She was crying. At one point, you have a scene which really I think got Kathy Bates her nomination, where she is crying, saying, "Please, leave my son alone. My son is innocent. My son did nothing wrong." And you see the emotion on Kathy Scruggs, played by Olivia Wilde, and she obviously feels pain and sorrow for what she's done. But what does the media do? The modern day media do. They do exactly what the whole movie is calling out. And that is the reason why I personally think the media attack this movie. It's because they don't like Clint Eastwood, because he happens to fall in a certain political ideology. He does not go toe to toe, toe in line, and everything like that with their typical liberal Hollywood agenda. So they got to already go after him in the first place. And then because of the fact that Kathy Scruggs at one point seems to be implied to have slept around with people in the FBI, people in law enforcement in order to get her information, they went wacko. They said, "Oh my gosh, he is a misogynist. This is a sexist film. This film is terrible," to the point where even so-called film critics in their reviews of the movie decided to put in their own political thoughts about that very subject matter, and that affected the review of the film. So of course, that left the film not getting the great reviews that it was really should have deserved, and I think honestly affected the box office for the film as well, because there was so much negativity towards it. And this is already a film that wasn't going to be a giant blockbuster hit, because it's a story that not a lot of people are really going to want to see in the first place. So basically, it seems to me that the media decided that they wanted to try and kill this movie before anyone could actually see it, which is why I highly and strongly recommend that everyone try and go out of the way to support this movie, financially support this film, but also go and watch it for yourself to see the truth that they don't want you to see. Now, I think that this article from Vanity Fair seems to be pretty fair by Julie Miller. It goes into saying the Richard Jewell controversy and the complicated truth about Kathy Scruggs, and then it goes into the attack against, I know, I'm pissed about this too, River. I'm pissed about this too. So it goes into the attack that they go against Clint Eastwood, calling him, of course, misogynist, all these terrible names. It's exactly what they called Richard Jewell. Not those names specifically, but that's exactly how they went after Richard Jewell back in the day. So again, the media seems to not change, and it's the reason why films like this need to be made, because it calls out their nonsense and it calls out their obsession with news, their obsession with getting the clicks and getting the likes and getting the views for ratings and not for the actual truth itself, which is why the media needs to have a huge change. And the only way that we can do that is by trying to call them out on their nonsense like I'm doing right now, and I recommend that you try and do the same. But this is a very fair article because it presents to you the controversy, it presents to you what Olivia Wilde, the actress that portrays the character, has said, what the producers have said about it, what of course the major controversy and all the complaints and the whines about it were, but it also tells you about a book by which this is based on that does seem to indicate that, based on one person's interactions with her, indicates that she very well played herself up as someone that tried to get information by using her looks, by using those tactics. And the fact that people were getting up in arms because this is how, in all likelihood, she presented herself and she acted, because, again, we're taking the words of one book. Does that mean that that one book is fact? Not necessarily, but it definitely seems like there's a lot of people that are defending her to the point of probably ignoring some bad quality traits. And remember, the film at the very end of it seems to at least, give some forgiveness to her by saying and showing that, hey, she felt bad about it, that she felt terrible about what she had done to this person, that she had indeed basically convicted in the media, in the eyes of the media, in the eyes of the world, therefore, a man that was completely innocent. So I think it's interesting to me, and it's a good article, it's a good read, so I would recommend reading through it if you want to know more about it. And again, that's the article by Julie Miller. So basically, Kathy Scruggs, as far as what we actually know, was someone that would do a lot of things in order to get the stories. Did she do everything that the movie portrayed? Not necessarily, but then again, it's also a movie. Movies are a dramatization. Movies take parts of the facts and try and use the parts of the facts that they have. They try and take all sources. And guess what? One source indicated that that's the kind of stuff that she did. Now, whether that stuff is true or not, that is, of course, up for discussion. But to go out of your way to try and say that this film is misogynistic because of how it portrays the character or anything like that, I think is extremely foolhardy. I think it is completely out of line, and this is a movie that I would say is a must-see. This is a film that I'm honestly going to have to try and put in somewhere in my top 10 list of this year because of not just how powerful the acting is, but also because of how important this story is and why people need to see it, because the media continues to do this nonsense. If you don't remember stories like like that have happened a lot more recently than this story, where you had people falsely accused of crimes, but many people still to this day, the Duke lacrosse team, for example, remember that team? Everyone still assumes they were guilty of their actions, even though the facts turned out to not be the case. Everyone remembers, of course, the Brett Kavanaugh situation, and again, that's not me jumping into that scenario, but everyone assumes that he was wrong and assumes that he was guilty, because that's the kind of the narrative that the media wanted to run with, because the media wanted that to be the truth. This movie is so important because it shows and exposes that media nonsense. But anyway, let me know, have you seen Richard Jewell? What are your thoughts about it? Getting your honest thoughts. I think it's an extremely well-made film, and it tells an important story that is still extremely relevant in today's world. Also, if you've read this article, let me know your thoughts on it. Do you think it's fair? Based on the very little that I have read from it, it seems to give a very fair portrayal by saying, here is what the controversy was, here is what some response to the controversy is, and as it even says in the title, it's a complicated truth, meaning that Kathy Scruggs was indeed a very flawed person. She was indeed at the center of this and started this controversy that put an innocent man in the spotlight and tore his name and just completely dragged his name through the mud. But anyway, let me know your thoughts about this film. It's a great film. Go watch it. And let me know your thoughts about this and anything we talked about in the comment section below. If you like this video, smash the like button, give me a subscribe, helps me a lot. You're all amazing people. Obviously, this video is being recorded on Friday because I am going out of town this weekend, heading back to New Orleans, spend some time with some family. So this video and the next video as well that will be coming out Sunday will be recorded. The typical box office video breakdown that I have on Geeks and Gamers and sometimes on this channel on Sundays might or might not happen. I'll have my extra equipment with me, but obviously because of family and timing, I don't know exactly when I would be able to get that stuff done. But let me know your thoughts. Love you guys. As always, God bless. And now I want to give a shout out to my January Patreon members: animation commentator Brian P., Dion, Divex, Elizabeth M., Enrique Evangelista, Fan Addicts of Film, Father Christopher Miller, Hail Father, Frank the Tank and the Shawhan Wiener Dog Clan, Harold Francis, the Hunky Chunky Funky Monkey, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jeffrey Toon, J.J. Jonathan Jerembeck, Lady T, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin, Orange Hat Reviews, Outpost Dyer, Perpetual Punster, Riff Magos, Rosetta Allen, Sir Lanceloto, Theodore Bendon, The DJD Show, Those Two Ball Guys, and Tina B. and Sharon Ferguson. Sharon! Thank you so much for being Patreon members. And of course, to my Subscribe Star peeps, Larry, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, G2Cool99, Darkstar57, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., US 888209 Fast, Dean Heiss, Harold Francis, J-Rod the Beer Guru, Nebanon G. Adams, and ZK Man. Thank you so much for supporting me this month. You guys freaking rock. And a special news shout out to Jeff Lebowski and Steve Glasker. God bless.